O que é a beleza?
We see it in people, in landscapes, in experiences. But what exactly is it?
Nesta série vamos tentar encontrar respostas. O nosso instinto para a beleza parece preceder-nos. Já existia há milhares de anos, antes mesmo de desenvolvermos a linguagem. Iremos retroceder no tempo para descobrir as primeiras obras de arte e seguir a evolução da beleza até aos dias de hoje. Vamos viajar por todo o mundo para descobrir diferentes atitudes culturais em relação à beleza. E vamos olhar para um futuro no qual os robôs e a inteligência artificial determinarão os nossos gostos estéticos. Vamos investigar o valor, o poder e o outro lado da beleza. Como criá-la e como copiá-la. O meu nome é Dominic Frisby e sou um escritor inglês.
And I've been asked to make a television series in which we rediscover our sense of beauty. My journey begins here. Beauty has value. Whether it's a work of art, a piece of jewellery, or a house, if it's beautiful, people want it, and so its value is higher. The same goes for people. Studies now show that on average, the attractive earn at least 12.5% more than ordinary-looking people. We actually imbue good-looking people with qualities they don't even have, in a process known as the halo effect. But we don't need studies to tell us what we already know. If you're beautiful, the world is your oyster. If you're not, the world is less interested. Beauty is revered, it is craved, it is prized. And so advertisers exploit beauty to sell products. Billions of dollars are invested every day by people trying to make beautiful things or make themselves look more beautiful. Entire lives are dedicated to beauty. Wars are fought in its name. But rather than being the result of Mother Nature or some artistic instinct, what if there was a scientific or mathematical formula to beauty? Something that could be calculated, coded, and then acted upon. What then? We're about to find out if such a thing exists as we investigate the formula of beauty.
I have a friend who's an artist and has sometimes taken a view which I don't agree with very well. He'll hold up a flower and say, "Look how beautiful it is." And I'll agree, and he says, "You see, as I as an artist can see how beautiful this is, but you as a scientist, take this all apart and it becomes a dull thing." And I think that he's kind of nutty. First of all, the beauty that he sees is available to other people and to me too. I believe, although I may not be quite as refined as aesthetically as he is, that I can appreciate the beauty of the flower. At the same time, I see much more about the flower than he sees. I could imagine the cells in there, the complicated actions inside, which also have a beauty. I mean, it's not just beauty at this dimension of 1 centimeter, there's also beauty at a smaller dimensions.
The Nobel Prize-winning theoretical physicist Richard Feynman was known for, among other things, his work on quantum mechanics, quantum electrodynamics, quantum computing, and particle physics. He assisted in the development of the atomic bomb in World War II. He introduced the concept of nanotechnology and was on the panel that investigated the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. No surprise, he was ranked one of the 10 greatest physicists of all time. Very much aesthetically led, he was by no means the first scientist to have been captivated by beauty and its many mysteries.
Os antigos gregos consideravam a beleza como um objeto de amor, como algo divino. Deveria ser imitada e reproduzida sempre que possível nas suas vidas, nos seus edifícios, na sua aprendizagem e até mesmo na sua política. Então começaram a estudar a beleza na esperança de descobrir a sua fórmula. Acreditavam que a beleza tinha 3 ingredientes: simetria, proporção e harmonia. O escultor Policleto chegou a escrever um tratado argumentando que a matemática e a simetria estavam por detrás da perfeição artística. As estátuas de Fídias no Parthenon exibem uma proporção condizente com a matemática. Matemáticos como Euclides e Pitágoras, filósofos como Sócrates, Platão e Aristóteles, todos eles, cada um da sua forma, desenvolveram a ideia de que havia uma fórmula.
It's said that Pythagoras was the world's first philosopher, that he invented mathematics. It's also said that Apollo, the god of the sun, was his father, and that he had a golden thigh. The truth is, nothing Pythagoras actually wrote remains, and everything he's supposed to have said has been attributed, including his mathematical theorem. Ancient Babylonians and Indians were using that same theorem hundreds of years before Pythagoras, and his name was only associated with it 500 years after he died. It all shows how we like a good story, and we'll adapt history if we have to get one. However, there is one theory with which he almost certainly was involved, since no evidence exists anywhere of earlier such theories: Pythagorean tuning.
A história conta que um dia Pitágoras passou por uns ferreiros e achou que o som dos martelos a bater nas bigornas era bonito, harmonioso.
He looked at their instruments to see how the sounds were produced and discovered that certain proportions, the size of a hammer, the length of a string, produce certain sounds. Studying the relationship between size and sound, Pythagoras came to believe that the same ratios that governed musical intervals also explained the beauty of buildings, of the human body, even of the skies. The planets and the stars moved according to the same mathematical ratios. Maths gives order, harmony, and beauty to the cosmos. And that's another thing Pythagoras is supposed to have invented: the cosmos. Not the whole thing, just the word. It might have begun with the sculptures of Polycletus. It might have begun with the musical studies of Pythagoras. It might have begun elsewhere. But this idea of the beauty of proportion gripped the ancient Greeks. So much so that outside the Platonic Academy here in Athens, there was a sign which read, Only those who have studied geometry may enter. And this idea of a link between beauty, proportion, and the divine was reinforced when Plato was asked, "What does God do?" He replied, "He applies geometry to the universe." Stagira, on the northeast coast of Greece, birthplace of Aristotle, one of the greatest thinkers Western culture has ever known. Student of Plato, tutor to Alexander the Great, and one of the first philosophers to study beauty. And he said that beauty is a matter of size and order. In other words, beauty can be boiled down to a mathematical formula, a proof. And that's where we get this idea that, as the English poet John Keats so famously said in his Ode to a Grecian Urn, beauty is truth. Truth, beauty. That is all ye on earth know, and all ye need to know.
A fórmula matemática que os gregos descobriram foi o número 1,618. Desde então o número recebeu o nome de Φ, inspirando-se na 21ª letra do alfabeto grego e no escultor Fídias. Conhecemo-lo como proporção áurea. O matemático alemão Johannes Kepler, uma figura-chave na revolução científica do século XVII, afirmou estar convencido de que esta proporção tinha servido de base para o Criador e, na verdade, também é conhecida como proporção divina. E, ao que parece, o olho humano encanta-se com qualquer forma que reproduza esta proporção divina. A geometria, um retângulo dourado, é todo o retângulo em que a razão entre as medidas de comprimento do lado maior e do lado menor coincide com o número de ouro, cerca de 1,618. E se usarmos este número como fator de crescimento numa espiral algorítmica, a sequência é infinita. Essa proporção pode ser encontrada em toda a natureza, desde galáxias espirais de tamanhos gigantescos a flores. Esta é a concha do náutilo, um molusco marinho. Podemos ver esta espiral logarítmica quase perfeita, semelhante à espiral áurea, e por vezes corresponde na perfeição.
Artists throughout history have used the golden ratio, or variations of it, as a basis for their compositions.
Este é O Nascimento de Vênus, de Sandro Botticelli, uma das obras mais icónicas do Renascimento italiano. Diz-se ser a primeira obra pintada numa tela na Toscana. E a tela em si corresponde ao tamanho da proporção áurea. Uma linha horizontal de proporção áurea que se cruza exatamente com a parte de baixo da concha. Uma outra diretamente no umbigo de Vênus e ao longo do horizonte. Uma linha vertical de proporção áurea pousa no ponto no qual o polegar e o dedo de Hora se tocam. Talvez esteja a tocar na proporção áurea representada no quadro, ou até mesmo a tentar alcançar algo divino. Outra linha de proporção áurea, do lado direito ao esquerdo, cai na linha do horizonte.
It's possible that Botticelli did this by instinct, but he may actually have known about the golden ratio. De Divina Proporzione, on divine proportion, was written in Milan by Luca Pacioli almost contemporaneously, complete with illustrations by Leonardo da Vinci.
Da Vinci também usou a proporção áurea.
Today, perhaps more than ever, artists remain inspired by divine proportions and the golden ratio. The Venezuelan architect and illustrator Rafael Araujo first discovered phi when he was 15.
Desde então passou a guiar o seu trabalho. Ele diz que quando começou a aplicar a proporção áurea, começou a conseguir revelar a beleza das criações da natureza. Nas suas ilustrações, deixa as linhas de construção visíveis para destacar este enquadramento natural e matemático. Os seus desenhos são feitos exclusivamente à mão, utilizando apenas um lápis, um compasso, uma régua e um transferidor. Cada um leva cerca de 100 horas para ser completado. Apesar da frieza matemática nos seus trabalhos, há uma grande precisão e uma delicada sensibilidade, mesmo nos detalhes mais pequenos. De uma forma que Feynman sugeriu que só um cientista poderia fazer. Araújo conseguiu, de certo modo, unir a ciência e a arte. De muitas formas, a proporção áurea traz uma sensação de ordem ao caos do mundo. É uma forma de compreender o cosmos. Araújo reproduz a proporção áurea também em poliedros, que para os gregos antigos estavam associados aos elementos da terra, água, ar, fogo e éter. Segundo Platão, Deus terá usado o dodecaedro para organizar as constelações de todo o céu. Ao longo da história, estes padrões recorrentes têm sido observados.
In the first half of 19th century, a very particular idea of beauty was very diffused in the Romantic movement, Romantic era, mainly by Goethe, for example, that voyaged in Italy in the Grand Tour and visited the botanical garden in Padua, observing the wonderful palm that now is called the palm of Goethe, and observing in nature peculiar and specific patterns, so the regular and repeated forms that you see mainly in plants, but also in the animals, for example in animal coverage, in plants forms. And Goethe proposed for the first time the idea that you have a hierarchy and you have a relationship between these forms, these patterns. You have the archetypes, so the big and more ancient forms. So this idea that nature is organized through structure and form and patterns. And now we think that Goethe's idea of nature and beauty of nature is not scientific. But a century and a half after Goethe, we discovered that actually in nature you see frequently quite regular, quite mathematic repetition of forms and patterns. The Fibonacci series is a classical example. In plants, you have frequently this fact that, for example, the movement of plants, that was studied also by Darwin, or the forms of flowers, follow strictly the Fibonacci series. It's like the fact that nature loves these mathematical, these geometrical forms that are in the same time beauty and efficient.
In 1202, Italian mathematician Fibonacci, in his Book of Calculations, posed a mathematical puzzle. You have a pair of rabbits, one male, one female. After 1 year, how many pairs will you have? Now there are certain rules. No rabbits die. Female rabbits give birth to one new pair, one male, one female, once per month. The newly born rabbits are themselves able to reproduce after 1 month. The answer is that each month the number of rabbits is the sum of the previous 2 months. So after 1 month there's one rabbit, one pair of rabbits. After 2 months there's still one pair of rabbits. After 3 months, 1 plus 1, 2. 2 plus 1, 3. 3 plus 2, 5. 5 plus 3, 8. 8 plus 5, 13. 13 plus 8, 21. Until by the end of the year, there are 233 pairs of rabbits.
Não é de estranhar que exista uma relação especial entre os números de Fibonacci e a proporção áurea. A proporção de quaisquer dois números de Fibonacci sucessivos, à medida que a sequência evolui, é a mesma da proporção áurea. A proporção áurea não influencia apenas a arte ou a forma como vemos a natureza, mas também a forma como olhamos para nós mesmos e como melhoramos a nossa aparência. E os seus efeitos são evidentes em todo o mundo.
So here I am in Seoul, in South Korea, in the plastic surgery capital of the world. And tomorrow I'm going to meet a plastic surgeon by the name of Dr. Ree. Now, Dr. Ree has developed a piece of computer software which analyses your face. It looks at the geometry, the proportions, and it compares it to other beautiful faces. And based on all this data, it tells you what you need to do to improve the way you look. And not only that, he has another app which he's developing which tells you about your character based on the way you look. Now, in order to analyse my face, Dr. Ree wants me to send him a selfie. So let's do that. And let's see what his software makes of this mug.
Em 2010, ao juntar caras de pessoas bonitas, o Dr. Ree tentou criar a cara mais bonita do mundo e até escreveu um artigo sobre o tema. Fomos até à clínica do Dr. Ree, no distrito de Gangnam, o distrito da indústria da moda de Seul.
Now, in this study, you've analysed my face.
Yes.
And you've made certain observations about my character and my life from my face.
Yes.
Is that right?
Because people see the people's face with emotion. Emotion can be interpreted by computer algorithm. It is a form of computer algorithm to analyze people's perception or emotional feeling about different persons.
But it says 99.6% intelligence.
Right, people usually regard that someone has a round and big forehead. People usually feel that they have a high intelligence. It is a historical feeling about facial features. So your forehead is very long, so my algorithm interpreted that you may have high intelligence.
But only 32% intuition.
Yes, I feel that you have very good intuitions, but generalized people's perceptions feels your face have some short of intuition. But it is data from old history.
Does outer beauty mean inner beauty?
People think that beautiful faces is somewhat reflective of people's confidence or intuitions or intelligence is somewhat related to facial beauties. But many studies reported that there is some relationship, but not perfectly matched to the theory.
Dr. Ree, thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you. I'm going to take these statistics and show my mother.
Oh, yes.
A inteligência artificial pode avaliar as proporções faciais e sugerir uma cirurgia plástica adequada. Alguns cirurgiões baseiam as suas intervenções em máscaras faciais, modelos de caras ideais, alinhadas de acordo com a proporção áurea. O Dr. Ri não é grande adepto desta prática.
황금 비율에 대해서 얘기하자면 황금 비율 자체라는 것은 어떤 형식적으로 모든 것들을 절대화하고 획일화하는 그런 도구인데 저 개인적인 생각으로는 인종이나 민족에 따라서 그러한 획일화가 하는 것은 옳지 않은 것이라고 생각합니다. 그 획일화라고 하는 것들로 인해서 많은 문제들이 발생되고 있고 그 획일화의 관점들로 인해서 비슷비슷한 얼굴들, 비슷비슷한 성형한 사람들이 만들어지고 있습니다. 우리는 인류의 민족들의 다양성을 인정해 주는 것부터 출발되어야 되고 따라서 아름다움의 다양성에 대해서 인정을 해줘야 하는데 그러한 황금 비율 자체라는 것들을 모든 인종 성별에 맞추는 것은 획일화의 일종의 프로파간다에 가깝다고 생각해서 저는 그것을 사용하지 않고 일종의 눈속임으로 생각하고 있습니다.
The beautiful one has arrived. I'm not talking about myself, but the ancient Egyptian queen Nefertiti. That's what her name literally means. And if anyone was ever going to get full marks in some computerized beauty test, it's her. And we're going back to Europe now, to Belgium, to meet an Egyptologist who's been conducting his own tests on her infamous bust.
A sua cara não é muito diferente do ideal que muitos tentam alcançar com a cirurgia plástica. A rainha Nefertiti e o seu marido Akhenaton reinaram durante o período mais opulento do Antigo Egito, em cerca de 1350 a.C. Mas ela ficou famosa pelo seu busto que foi criado pelo escultor Tutmose.
So Nefertiti is a really fascinating character of ancient Egyptian history. It's probably the most depicted female consort in ancient Egyptian history through all ancient Egyptian history. I mean, we have a lot of depictions of her, a lot of textual references to her, but this gives us access to the official role of Nefertiti and the individual character withdrawn from our documentation.
Pescoço longo, maçãs do rosto altas, sobrancelhas ligeiramente arqueadas, nariz fino e sorriso enigmático nos lábios vermelhos. As suas proporções são simétricas, quase de forma impossível, e no entanto são realistas. Nefertiti possui uma das caras mais bonitas da antiguidade.
Within the context of Egyptology, within the context of ancient Egypt, the most beautiful or the most famous beautiful woman is certainly Nefertiti, whose name means the beautiful one has arrived.
O busto demonstra a compreensão que os egípcios tinham da proporção e da beleza facial.
The bust of Nefertiti, now kept in the Neues Museum Berlin, was found in 1912 by Ludwig Borchardt. Everybody agreed on the fact that this bust generates the impression of a perfect beauty, of perfection. And this perfection was inquired by a previous curator at the Egyptian Museum in Berlin, Rolf Krauss, who had the brilliant idea to make a 3D scan of the bust and to try to analyze the proportions of the bust. So we know that ancient Egyptians used proportion grids to control the proportions of the depictions. And we know that they did this for sculptures, and this is a sculptor model because it was found in a sculptor workshop. And it's cut, it's not a complete depiction of a body, it's just a bust which is highly abnormal in the typology of ancient Egyptian art. It's because it's a bust that was meant to be exhibited within the workshop to copy the official face of the king or of the queen. And so the brilliant idea of Rolf Krauss was to project a grid on this bust, and this grid is not made in inches or centimeters, it's made in ancient Egyptian digits. And ancient Egyptian digit is 1.875 centimeters, so it's very precise. And what Rolf Krauss was able to discover, actually, he was really shocked by his own discovery, was that every feature of the face of Nefertiti are at the level of a line in this grid or at the crossing of two lines. And of course, statistically, it's impossible to have this regularity in a face, and especially a regularity that fits with your metrological system, so which would fit with inches or centimeters. And here, in this case, it fits with ancient Egyptian centimeters, so ancient Egyptian digits.
Dimitri, here we have Nefertiti, according to some, the most beautiful woman that ever lived.
Of course, as always. So, in ancient Egyptian art, symmetry is very important. And for example, in the study of the bust of Nefertiti in Berlin, they were able to, they studied the bust, and they were able to show that beneath the painting layers, you have a line that divides the face of Nefertiti into two symmetrical halves.
And would this have been made according to the mathematical model that they used?
So the mathematical model was used to produce the original, the master copy. When they made the statues, we know, because we have unfinished statues, that they used also the grid to have approximately the final shape, and then they redrew the grid on each face of the block at each step of the carving of the statue. And it's only in the end that they make a real 3D thing. So they approach 3D with a connection of two-dimensional surfaces.
As grelhas matemáticas usadas para criar o busto provocaram uma reação emocional. O que acontece no cérebro quando experienciamos a beleza? Quando vemos, ouvimos, tocamos, provamos ou cheiramos algo de que gostamos? Vamos até a Inglaterra para conhecer um neurobiólogo especializado no estudo do cérebro visual dos primatas e nas correlações neurológicas de estados emocionais, ou seja, como o cérebro processa e reage a certas experiências como o amor, o desejo e a beleza.
When you find something beautiful, be it in the domain of music or visual art or moral beauty or mathematics or sorrowful beauty or joyful beauty, there is always activity in a given part of the brain, which is called the medial orbital frontal cortex, which is part of the emotional and pleasure centers of the brain. Now, this is in addition to activities that each one of these different types of beauty elicits in the brain, but there is one common area, all right, which is always active. Now, this tells us something quite important, really. First of all, it is an interesting scientific discovery. I mean, nobody would have expected necessarily that this would be the result, but this is the result. And it's quite interesting from the point of view of philosophers of aesthetics, that when they talk about beauty in the abstract. In other words, they don't talk necessarily about musical beauty or poetic beauty. They talk about beauty bringing in these examples. So that's the first point. The second point is that it is quite interesting that, you see, the ancient Greeks had a single word, kalon, to signify both moral beauty and physical beauty. And it's interesting that both moral beauty and physical beauty correlate, or the experience of these correlate with activity in the same part of the brain. That's quite an interesting point. The third point is that, and that's completely unexpected, that the experience of beauty derived from sensory sources, such as music and, say, vision, correlate with activity in the same part of the brain as beauty derived from highly cognitive intellectual sources, such as mathematics.
Yeah, so I read a research paper where some neuroscientists had looked at people's brains, mathematicians' brains, as they looked at beautiful pieces of mathematics, and it seemed like the response was the same part of the brain that responds to beauty. It's hard for me to say which part of my brain might be lighting up. So I think when I listen to a beautiful piece of music or I look at a beautiful landscape, it's hard to say whether that's the same feeling as when I solve a mathematical problem.
Mathematical beauty is certainly a beauty that is profoundly experienced by mathematicians. When we had the mathematicians here looking at mathematical formulas and saying which ones are beautiful, which ones are not.
For me, sometimes beauty can be a way to finding the truth, can be a way of guiding how I think about a problem. If a solution is ugly, then I feel like there must be a better solution, a more beautiful solution.
So what does mathematical beauty consist of? Mathematical beauty really, I think, and this is conjectural, and it's really actually, I'm plagiarizing from Immanuel Kant. Someone says, look, this now makes sense.
And for me, when I think about beauty in maths, it's all about the conceptual understanding, the ideas that are encapsulated by a formula.
Once the mathematician learns the language of mathematics, they will be able to experience the beauty, because the logical deductive systems of all of our brains are the same.
This is Milan, and I'm walking along the cloister of the Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore, and I'm here to meet some members of the psychology department who are conducting research into the neuropsychological components of an aesthetic experience. In other words, what goes on in your mind when you perceive something beautiful or ugly. Cinzia, hello. Ciao.
Ciao Dominique.
Ciao, ciao Davide.
Ciao,
ciao.
ciao.
Ciao. What, and you. What a spectacular place.
Yes, indeed. Shall we take a look?
Okay, I'm ready, and I'm only to look at the screen. Cinzia, what exactly is this experiment going to show us?
We're going to study the relationship between the movement of your eyes and your aesthetic response. So it's going to show us basically two things. The first is where exactly you're looking on the screen, so the specific points of the artwork that you're looking at. And second, through this we're going to infer the psychological processes that lead you to look at those specific points. Right, so yeah, exactly. Now we're going to record your eye gaze, and you will need to follow this red bulb moving across the screen.
Okay, that's done.
So now you need to relax, and you need to express your aesthetic judgment on the images that you're going to look at. So soon after each image, a screen will appear with the judgments, a scale from I didn't like it at all to I liked it very much. So once you've expressed your judgment, you will proceed with the next image.
À medida que olhava para cada imagem, o movimento dos meus olhos foi rastreado por um cientista noutro ecrã. Desta forma, uma relação entre o prazer da estética e o movimento dos olhos poderia ser determinada. Esta análise foi feita a uma amostra representativa de observadores em circunstâncias diferentes.
We've been comparing the paintings this time, where we manipulated other variables. So in some paintings we had only nature. In other paintings we had some context where there was also a human being. So starting, for example, with the eye tracking technique, we wanted to see where the attention was focused when you looked at one context with respect to the other. And there was very interesting because we noticed that when there was a human being depicted in a painting, the attention was immediately captured by the human subject. That was independent of the surrounding context. So the gazing was very focused on the human figure. And depending on whether it was dynamic or a static figure, so for example, now I'm very static, so you would look very much at my face, whereas if I were to move, you would look also at my hands and my, you would pay attention to my movements, because you're, as a human being in our relationship, what you want to gather from my attitude is from my behavior is my attitude towards you, because you need to respond to my behavior. So you look at all the features that are of social communicative interest, so it might be face, my expression, or what I do with my limbs behaviorally.
No cérebro humano há uma vasta rede de neurónios, uma rede neurológica. O conteúdo de uma imagem pode influenciar o nosso comportamento visual, mas esta dinâmica pode expandir-se para que outros fatores determinem a nossa experiência quando vemos algo. Atualmente pensa-se que sejam umas células especializadas, os neurónios espelho, que ativam um mecanismo de empatia.
When we watch someone else performing an action, or for example, someone experiencing pain, we also use similar parts of our brain as if we were performing that action or experiencing that pain ourselves. Some writers, including Vittorio Beleza, have suggested that perhaps our ability to appreciate artwork is based on this neural capacity.
Na obra Rapaz Mordido por um Lagarto, do pintor barroco Caravaggio, vemos um rapaz a retrair-se com dores, mostrando surpresa e medo quando o seu dedo foi mordido por um lagarto escondido na fruta. Há um movimento marcado do rapaz quando se retrai em contraste com a natureza morta e a jarra de vidro com uma rosa e um ramo de jasmim e as cerejas vermelhas atrás, entre ele e nós. Era bastante invulgar um quadro do final do século XVI retratar uma figura em movimento, contrastando com uma natureza morta. Muitos, quando veem o quadro, sentem empatia pelo rapaz, sentem a dor dele. Isto, segundo alguns neurocientistas, são os nossos neurónios espelho em ação. A simples observação pode desencadear a ação desses neurónios, o que nos leva a sentir empatia pelo rapaz ou pelo que quer que estejamos a observar. Até na ausência de um estímulo de dor real, sentimos uma sensação de dor física similar à da pessoa que está a ter a experiência. O próximo passo na nossa viagem é Moscovo. Enquanto os investigadores tentam entender, o eu desencadeia os nossos detonadores estéticos e as reações à beleza nos nossos cérebros. A ciência programa robôs para apreciar a beleza.
Beauty Eye, it is a platform to connect algorithm developers working in the field of application of computer vision for appearance analysis and for humans who would like to be evaluated by robots. So when we initially started this contest, we really wanted to make something unbiased, because if you look into the most popular beauty contests, only very young females participate in them. And we really think that it would be a great idea to provide the opportunity to take part in the beauty contest for everyone. This is why we launched Beauty Eye. So in our contest, people of different ages can participate, and we score them in different age categories. So we really want to give opportunity to everyone. On the other hand, it's a very interesting project because really believe that in future we would be routinely interacting with robots and algorithms. And of course it's very interesting how they would perceive us. So maybe in 10 years you would be surrounded by very smart devices. They're penetrating in our life even now. And we really need to teach algorithms and robots to like us. So we are like making the first step into human-machine interaction now.
Foi criado um conjunto de algoritmos que conseguem avaliar um rosto humano e, com base em dados comparáveis, pode fazer avaliações sobre a aparência e a saúde dessa pessoa.
Hello Jane, this is Dominic. Can you hear me?
Hello Dominic, it's Jane. I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
I can, and you're in Moscow.
Yes, and you?
Yeah, I'm in London.
Oh, great.
And so I'm sending you my photo and you're going to evaluate it.
Well, actually not myself. You're submitting your photo to the first beauty contest judged by artificial intelligence. So as soon as your photo is submitted, it's gonna be evaluated by several algorithms of artificial intelligence. For example, your picture is gonna be compared to the database of famous actors of your age, and also will calculate your wrinkle score and many other parameters.
Great. Well, I look forward to receiving the results. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you very much for submitting your photo. Goodbye.
There is no single algorithm to really evaluate the person's beauty or any kind of appearance. It always comes down to the eye of the beholder and the vantage point you're looking from. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to create a jury that will be able to evaluate human appearance from various perspectives using various approaches. So some of the approaches are more classical, like for example symmetry, dyspigmentation of the face, all kinds of abnormalities, looking at all kinds of defects that might make the person less attractive or actually more attractive. We're also looking at algorithms like average face. So you're creating an average face within a certain population group, and then you're evaluating how far an individual is away from the average face. Another approach, which is also pretty much classical, is that you can compare within a certain population group a person to the various actors, models, and celebrities who are venerated and who are already approved by the society as models and as etalons of beauty and perfection. You can also compare to the various high-performing athletes. You can compare the person to politicians, and you can compare the person to the younger version of the person. So you're basically trying to take the person back in time and compare the current state with the younger state, because again, many people perceive younger people as being more attractive. And there are many ways to do that. So another hypothesis is that if you are more intelligent, you might be more beautiful. Or if you look like you are more intelligent, you might be more attractive to certain population groups. So we're experimenting with the entire zoo of approaches, and we're constantly looking for new ones.
Whether there's a formula to beauty, I'm not sure. I don't feel we can give that definite answer. I think that perhaps a better person that could be able to respond would be a physicist or a mathematician.
I have no thoughts whatsoever on whether there's a formula for beauty, but it seems improbable. I'd rather just go and stand on a hillside and look at the view or listen to a piece of music. For me, I don't need to define beauty precisely.
For me, we have to overcome an ancient, old-fashioned dichotomy. That is, the dichotomy between the beauty as a universal feature for all human species, for example, and beauty as just a matter of subjective and personal and idiosyncratic choices. I think that we have to think beauty as a mixing, as a recipe of all the two.
We can try to define, for example, whether things like symmetry, familiarity, composition, surprise, whether these sorts of factors might play a role in what the beautiful objects or people have in common.
Formula of beauty, it's a very hard question, but I think that formula of beauty is harmony. So harmony of all your spheres of life, all the traits of your persona. So harmony, I think, is the key to beauty.
So, is there a formula to beauty? Frustrating though it may be, the answer seems to be yes and no. Beautiful things often correspond to certain geometric proportions, for example, but those proportions alone aren't enough to guarantee beauty. There are no easy answers, no shortcuts. Beauty is part rational, part emotional, part learned and methodical, part instinctive. The study of beauty continues from an artistic and a scientific point of view, and new insights are being gained, new discoveries made all the time. And with each new discovery, we feel like we're getting closer. But are we? We're also discovering how much further there is to go. Just as the study of beauty evolves and develops, so does beauty itself. So that the quest to understand its secrets is as eternal as beauty. We're making progress, we're travelling the journey, but I'm not sure we will ever reach the Elysium of total understanding.
I think there is no doubt that if you are exposed every day to something beautiful, you are going to be, in a way, nourished. You're going to be rewarded. Now, a part of the brain, which is the visual brain, has got to be nourished in what way? You've got to have a visual input, all right? Why would you not say the same thing about the medial orbital frontal cortex? It's got to be nourished, it's the reward and pleasure center of the brain. It also has got to be rewarded. We know that for the visual brain, if you do not nourish it from birth onwards, it atrophies, and you can become, your vision gets blighted. All right? If during a critical period after birth, you do not see. This used to happen with congenital cataract. It doesn't happen very often now because they operate on it quite early. So what makes people think that you don't have to nourish the other parts of the brain? And the medial orbital frontal cortex is there for pleasure, is there for reward, is there for the experience of beauty, and I think it has to be nourished too.